All right, Clip Rock here in the Pirate Radio Studio C. Joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, East Carolina Hall of Famer Andrew Bays. And love that the past connects with the present with Andrew as he is calling the road games on the Pirate Sports Network along with Jim Zoki and Macy O'Donnell. We welcome in Andrew to the show. Andrew, appreciate your time. How you doing, man?
Hey, buddy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and looking forward to talking past and present Pirate football for you with you. And we'll start with the past because we're having members of the 1999 team on. They're going to be honored later this year at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium during the UTSA game. And we've talked defense with Jeff Carr. We've talked offense with Keith Stokes. Had to show some love to the special teams today, right? So, Andrew, that's a pretty cool deal, though. You'll be able to reconnect with some of your former teammates and talk about a great era of Pirate football that had wins, had adversity with Mother Nature, had a lot included with it.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. A lot of us still stay connected. Especially talking pirate football and outside of life with families. And it's crazy to think that it's been 25 years. I mean, you put that in perspective, and it just you feel aged really quick. But in our heads, it was just yesterday.
Right.
I talk about it all the time that the football. I'm sure other sports teams experience it, but with our team, there's guys that it could be 10 years that I haven't seen somebody, and you get reconnected with them, and it's like you just saw them yesterday. I had experience with that with a fellow teammate, Tim Mack, who had a long illustrious career as an airborne Army soldier, and I ran into him at the hospital in Fort Bragg, and I had not seen him since maybe my sophomore year in college. And him and I just ran into each other in the hallway and immediately connected as if we had just seen each other the other day. And it's really crazy what team sports can do, and certainly at ECU we experienced quite a bit, and we got I feel got a bit closer because of it. But yeah, the connection and that bond is strong for sure.
Andrew, the Miami game, of course, is remembered and will always be remembered by Pirate fans. Maybe the greatest live sporting event I've ever attended, and I still remember it quite well. But I've asked everybody kind of their individual memories and just the things that come flooding back when you think about that time. And I just can't imagine being, that age and you're away from home that long down in South Carolina, and you come back, you play a home game and somebody else is in a rival stadium. What memories do you have from that time, and then to be able to win that game against that great team? What memories do you have of that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of memories come back, and I go back. Everyone remembers Hurricane Floyd as being the one that really impacted and created 1 in 500 year floods that created the problems that were all the way across eastern North Carolina. But it was Hurricane Dennis that was a couple weeks prior that came in, ripped through quite a bit of rain that had saturated pretty much everything, and already had crested the rivers and really created the problem that Hurricane Floyd just finished off. But the thing I remember on the football side of things is, I hear coaching staffs today and players today talk about indoor practice facilities, this, that, and the other. And, there's newer NCAA guidelines in relation to, what you can do on the field with weather. And I just recall, I'm sure it was Dennis. I just remember Coach Logan just kind of blew through probably the stop signs in practice, and we were out. A lot of times we were out at that Cliff Moore practice facility, and you know we're looking at each other like, I don't think we should be out here. And he was going to get the work in. A lot of times, you know, our practice facility might not hold up as well, and we would move practices to the stadium when we were under heavy rain. So I remember, in preparation that season, we were getting a lot of rain, and the hurricanes coming through, Dennis coming through, and we practiced a lot inside that stadium. And it was during some really bad weather, and I don't think you can get away with that anymore
All right.
anymore. But Yeah, I mean, as far as that week goes, we knew when we boarded the plane and took off, um, for South Carolina that we were leaving a pretty bad situation, and we didn't know that the likelihood of us not coming back was going to be a scenario. But we knew things were tough when we left, and we got down there. We were highly motivated to play that game against South Carolina. That was Lou Holtz's first home game, in front of 80,000 people in South Carolina. That was quite an environment for us to go through. We had, I guess people forget, we opened up that season against West Virginia in Charlotte, in front of 50 plus thousand fans. That's when you were mentioning off year Jeff Carr. He knocked out Mark Bulger in that game
Hmm.
for us to beat West Virginia, and so we had all kinds of positive, positivity going into the game against South Carolina, and we knew we'd have a good chance to win, and sure enough, we did. And rolling into that locker room after the game, Coach Logan was pretty blunt in the fact that we weren't going to be going anywhere. And usually, as a player, you pack up your travel suit, which is basically a jumpsuit, and a couple pairs of boxers and some socks and a little athletic bag, and off you go. And so Coach Logan was pretty blunt about, this is the deal, this is what we got. Call your loved ones, make sure everyone's okay, but we're just gonna kind of feel this thing as we go. And I just remember, it was kind of a unique thing for our team to experience. They were trying to find ways to keep us busy, whether it was taking us bowling or taking us to the mall to walk around, or team movies, or whatever it might be. And, I just remember, after a few days, the food kind of gets monotonous, eating some hotel food. And Coach Logan had been hearing some rumblings. And I remember in a team meeting, he used two words. He told us to don't bitch. And it's funny, I keep those words as part of my arsenal, as I raise my family, and we go through different times. And you hear some arguing in the car on a trip or something like that, and I always bring up the don't bitch. That's one thing I take away from that. And it was two words, but it's so true. We had it pretty good, all things considered. You were safe. South Carolina was kind of letting us practice in their practice facility. We were at a crumpled up high school practice field for most of that week in preparation of Miami. And it was just weird, kind of going through that. But we didn't know any better. When you're young and dumb, you don't know any better, and you just follow the rules. And I think Coach Logan would probably tell you that was a really good group of guys, led by Jeff Carr. David Garrard was coming into his own at that point. But we had a lot of senior leadership on the defensive side of the ball. And, they really carried us through that week as far as preparation and trying our best to stay focused. Um, and then, going fast forwarding to game day, I remember the talk was there were general admission tickets to that stadium, to Carter Finley, and we did not know how many people were really going to be there. And
Right.
we thought it was just going to be loved ones and family and friends and that kind of stuff. And when we pulled into the when we pulled into the parking lot ahead of getting to the locker room, and we saw the sea of Pirate fans that were in those lots. I mean, you talk about something that raise your hair on your arms. That was something that I'll never forget. That was something we were not expecting as a team. I certainly wasn't expecting it as an individual team member, but I knew right then at that point how much we meant to our region and how important that game was. Maybe it didn't really kick in for us until that point. And as a special teams player, we run out, to do warm-ups maybe an hour before the game or whatever it might be. And I remember usually we run out and no one's in the stadium. And I remember running out and it was just a thunderous roar of that entire stadium completely full for us. And I'm like, oh boy, this is different. And, fast forward to warm-ups, I remember standing on the sidelines and watching the Miami players dancing in their warm-up lines. And that was no different going back to, that 99 was my senior year. We played Miami in the Orange Bowl my freshman year, and it was the same thing. We ended up beating Miami 31-6 in the
Yeah.
Orange Bowl my freshman year, and those guys were dancing in the layup lines. And I just remember that these guys aren't taking us very seriously. And sure enough, they came out, they smacked us in the mouth pretty hard. We went down 20-0. I think it was about 20-0, 21-0, something like that, at halftime. And Coach Logan never did this before, but we had quite a few of previous years players that were down kind of in the front rows of the stadium that had gotten there early. Jason Nichols, Marcus Crandall, Larry Shannon, Mike Sellers, a number of guys that he let come into the locker room, probably by strategy of him, and he didn't have to say anything. Those guys said it all. They came in. They're the ones that experienced much like myself the win in '96, and they came in and just started getting after guys and starting to kind of let us have it, which we needed. And I think that was a little catalyst what happened in that locker room at halftime. Obviously, coaches made some adjustments, and we came out in the second half, and it was a completely different ball game. And it was just incredible to watch. It's different being out there playing. The speed of that game was incredible. That Miami team was incredibly fast, talented. And I'm sure Kevin Monroe could probably talk to you more about just the speed of those receivers and the speed of that game. I just remember, as a punt unit, I mean, those boys were coming every snap. And, as that game unfolded and you're starting to see what's going on, I remember you were there. You probably remember that end zone was all grass. And as the game went on, that grass, fans started coming from NC State, students started coming and filling up that grass. And, it was just interesting to see as we were making that happen, how much we believed that it was going to happen. Our motto pretty much with Coach Logan was winning the last play of the game. So we were, as far as strength training went and as far as conditioning went, we were built to outlast the other team, especially if we could get it close in the fourth quarter. We knew it was gonna work to our advantage. And as we got into the fourth quarter, and we saw the opportunity that we could knock off this team. We started seeing Miami players, bending over, touching their knees, kind of, having some cramp issues, and starting to see the things that you see when you start wearing down a team. And that's when that team or our team started to come to life, was late in that fourth quarter. And the rest is history. And obviously it was an incredible night, but for us it was there's a lot that obviously went into that, and to be able to come out that with two significant victories during a time that South Carolina thing wasn't very, very easy to go through, and then to prepare for that Miami game and come through it with a victory, it was pretty daggone sweet.
Andrew Bay's joining us. Andrew, you should write a book or something. Of all the descriptions I've heard, that is the most detailed, and it really took me back, and I'm sure the listeners and viewers as well. And a couple of things on that. I was lucky enough to work with Jason Nichols and Marcus Crandall last year on our pregame, postgame, and I texted Jason on Saturday and said, I miss you, and I apologize that you had to work with us during ECU's worst offensive year in history. And he kind of chuckled, and but I saw how much ECU means to him last year when they were struggling so bad, and he was so frustrated and disappointed and upset that he wants the best for this university. So he's fired up for this year. I wanted to point that out. but also you were talking about being young and it's sucking, but you didn't really know any different. But that was pre like phone and like the world
Yeah.
is at your fingertips. So if that happened now and you didn't have your phone, the world's ending. But back then you kind of didn't know what you missed, right? So. Just kind of a different time, but man, that description was awesome. You took me back. I felt like I was with you guys while you were going through that. So that was awesome. Andrew, wanted to ask you. So Jeff Carr, so Keith Stokes, when we talked to him, he had Logan in his ear quite a bit. Jeff Carr, a little less, being on the defensive side. How about you as a punter? How much was
Hmm.
Crazy Logan in your ear compared to other players?
Oh, he was, so I was part of the senior leadership group. He was a guy during punt unit or punt practice or punt team, periods, whatever you want to call it. He was over my right shoulder or behind me over my right shoulder every practice of my whole career. He was back there. What he would do is he would time every snap and every kick, as far as where you're at, and he would be in my ear, speed it up, speed it up, speed it up, whatever it might be. And he was pretty active in the kicking world. He wasn't one that would kind of blow off those periods. He'd be right in the middle of it, and he was a good advocate for us. I could tell you all kinds of stories, but he as long as we were productive on the field, which my senior year, my whole career really, I felt like I was pretty productive. He wouldn't mess with us. So we would come out. He would have special teams early in the practice, early periods. We would come out. We would warm up with the team and go through special teams periods, and then he'd let us just go do whatever we do. And we would, we were responsible in what we did, but we would take off and go get our workouts in the weight room, and then we go out to the stadium and do some individual work and not push it, and then he would expect us back for final 2-minute periods or whatever it might be towards the end of the practice and conditioning. And being around the program as much as I have over the years, that's pretty rare. I've watched the way different coaching staffs have managed the kickers, and he gave us a lot of individual freedom, and I think he did that because we didn't take advantage of it, and our results were paying off. Kevin Miller was the same way. He was right there with me. So Logan was, I thought, was excellent and great to specialists.
Andrew, you said you knew you were pretty good during your time, all conference, all American. Did you know you were Hall of Fame good? What was it like when you got that call eventually, years down the road?
Nah, that was pretty humbling. That was pretty sweet to receive that letter and to receive that honor. Obviously, our team is loaded with guys that have every bit of right to be in the Hall of Fame, and unfortunately, the university only puts in a number of them every year. So we're now every 2 years, really. I'm on that Hall of Fame committee, so it's a tough thing, and I appreciate the acknowledgement, and but I was just doing my job, really. At times I know Logan would give me a hard time because sometimes I would he'd call it out pump my coverage, but I think we had some pretty good guys that could cover the field. Kevin Monroe was one of them, and he could cover a lot of ground. I never heard Kevin bitch about it. So,
He listened to your
Kevin
two
was,
words, I guess.
yeah, Kevin was one of my great assets. Kevin and I had a really good connection on inside the 20 punts, and he was usually the left outside gunner on punt coverage, and him and I almost had it down to a T that he could catch my punt inside the 20. If the return man elected not to catch it. So, Kevin was an incredible athlete and an incredible specialist that a lot of people forget about.
We'll talk to Kevin coming up Thursday on Pirate Radio Live, and he'll be our special pirate picker for our Bud Light pregame tailgate this week. So Kevin's a great guy, and I'm wondering, should I connect those dots? Did he have any thing to do with maybe you calling some road games? Did he put in a good word for you, Andrew? Talk about that. How did you get back here to East Carolina to be calling some road football games for the Pirates?
Yeah, so I'm entering my third season, and so yeah, I'm pretty sure Kevin put in a good work. Kevin and I have a really good relationship that we've kept up ever since our playing days were over. So he's a good buddy of mine, and I don't know how exactly it came about, but I received a call from Kevin had given me a heads up that Jeff Charles might be calling me to ask me, and I received the call from Jeff, and Jeff was kind of going through what they were thinking with the road games, with Kevin's, wanting to be a little bit more present for his
Yeah.
sons entering high school and football. And, I told Jeff that I don't think it was going to be for me. I'd never done anything like that before. I imagined it wouldn't be a very easy thing to figure out. And he ensured that that I could do it, and he would help me, and that Kevin could be a good resource for me and help me out, and that we could figure it out together. And so I trusted Jeff and I trusted Kevin that it was something that I'd be able to enjoy. And to be honest with you, it's been absolutely great. Over the years, I've struggled, with my work schedule to find ways to stay connected with the program. And, this gave me the ability to, be able to get to practice, be able to observe, get to some scrimmages, travel with the team for, 6 games a year, and really stay engaged that way. And I'll be honest with you, it's been an incredible experience. It's been a lot of fun, following the players, following the coaches, dialing into the studying, each week. And it's been a really, really fun thing. And so I've enjoyed it.
And bottom line, it's hard to say no to Jeff Charles. He's got a way to make you sign the dotted line, and man, we miss him every day. I still see stuff in the world of sports that I want to shoot him a text about, but we will never forget the voice around these parts. And now, of course, Jim Zoki on the play-by-play. Andrew Bays will be on the call this weekend when the Pirates take on Old Dominion. We'll wrap it up and let you get back to work, Andrew. But East Carolina 1-0 for the first time since 2016, so I can finally stop talking about that, and I know people will be glad to hear that. But now trying to get to 2-0, they'll have to do it on the road against ODU, who took South Carolina, down to the wire in week 1. New look offense for the Pirates, Andrew. Some exciting stuff out there. We saw week 1, that same tenacious defense we saw last week that we saw the entire 2023 season. So what's your take after 1 week, and what do you expect coming up this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I take my cues from kind of Coach Houston, his press conferences, and, there's a lot to unfold in the first week against Norfolk State. Obviously, I think probably everyone's talked ad nauseum on the turnovers.
Yeah.
And, he didn't seem too stressed about that, his press conference. He said, hey, look across all of college football. First week's kind of messy, kind of ugly. So, if you set that aside, which I'm not prepared to set it aside yet, protecting the football is going to be really, really important Saturday night against ODU. As you look into that team, I watched that South Carolina game. That team is pretty dangerous. They've got 2 safeties that are flying around the field. I know Henderson, the linebacker, who's 2-time All-American, he didn't quite look right in that game, but I know they've got another linebacker, number 10, that plays well in his stead if he's still recovering from that knee injury. But looking at that ODU team, they're very similar clip to ECU, both defensively and offensively. It's almost like a mirror image of both teams.
I heard that from our defensive guys, Andrew, that when the defense looks at their offense, they're kind of seeing what they see at practice to some degree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Grant Wilson, he's a good looking quarterback, big, strong armed guy. He's got some athletic ability. The thing that's interesting that I took away from that is he had 5 sacks. South Carolina got to him 5 times. So maybe there's some questions in that offensive line as far as protection, which, obviously Blake loves to dial it up. So, there'll probably be some opportunities for some QB hits and possibly some sacks. So I'm sure Blake, his aggressive way of doing things, those are going to be mixed into the game. Might not be right off the jump. I know sometimes he likes to decoy those things until later in the game with really good opportunities. So, they're going to have their hands full. The ODU has a few wide receivers. I think Isaiah Page, he had 8 catches for, I think, 115 yards with that long of 72 for that touchdown in the second drive. So they've got some wide receiver threats. They like to spread it out. It's going to be interesting, but defensively, I'm really happy with what I saw from the Pirates. That I'm sure you noticed it. They were buzzing all over the field, and I don't, I know Norfolk State might not be on equal playing fields as ECU talent wise, but all things considered, I feel like the ECU defense played with a lot of speed. They were in the backfield quite a bit. They stacked up a lot of tackles for losses, which is important. They were getting after the quarterback. They were creating turnovers. So defensively, I think they're in a really good position going into this game. I know sometimes defenses have a slower start, but it seems like they're in a really good position. And as far as ECU offense, I think as Coach Houston alluded to, a lot of that's coachable as far as the turnovers. So that will be addressed this week. Ball security is going to be paramount to protect the football. It's interesting. It's going to be interesting in this game to see how much more the rushing attack is going to be utilized.
Yeah.
I know this is a very pass heavy offense. I imagine Garcia gets to the line of scrimmage and it's kind of a numbers game as far as what gets audible to a run. It's almost like every play is geared for a pass unless the numbers are there to be able to, sneak something, dive or some other rushing attack. So it's going to be interesting to see. We'll see a little bit more of the offense, I think, this week. I'm sure a lot of it was masked in the Norfolk State game to not tip off as much to ODU. But all in all, I think we're a pretty explosive team across the board.
Andrew Bays joining us. Andrew, I did not mean for this to go this long, but I'm going to put you as the 2024 Pirate Radio interviewee of the year right now. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Let's do it again. I've got more questions for you, so let's reconvene later in the year, and I'll ask you some of those about your pro football career and things like that. So thank you so much for joining us, man. We appreciate it, and congratulations to you and that 99 squad for being honored later this year, UTSA week. I know you guys are really going to enjoy that, and let's catch up down the road again, Andrew. But thanks again for today, man. That was awesome.
Anytime, buddy. Call anytime. I appreciate it. Go Pirates.